Morning. Yes, can we have roll, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Regent President Menedez. Regent Vice President Walsh. Here. Regent Atwell.
Here.
Regent Bexel.
Here.
Regent Bogus. Here. Regent Cologne.
Here.
Regent Greeby.
Here.
Regent Jones.
Here.
Regent Klein. Regent Miller.
Here.
Regent Koch.
Here.
Regent Drew Peterson.
Here.
Regent Chris Peterson. Here. Regent Rye.
Here.
Regent Saffold.
Here.
Regent Tucker. Here. Regent Underly. Here. Regent Weatherly.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, this morning, for the first time in my memory, we're going to have some recusals. And this is the part of the meeting where we have to do that. So if there are any board members that wish to declare a conflict of interest regarding any of the open session agenda items, now is the time to do that. So please proceed.
Thank you, Regent President Menedez. In order to avoid appearance of a conflict of interest, I wish to recuse myself from Business and Finance Committee items E, F, and L, and Capital Budget and Planning Committee item O.
Regent Jones.
Thank you, Regent President Menedez. In order to avoid the appearance of conflict of interest, I'd like to recuse myself from discussing or debating or voting on items F and I of the Business and Finance Committee report.
Anyone else on that side? Anyone on this side? Regent Beck.
I'll be recusing from item M from the Business and Finance Committee.
Regent Miller.
To avoid the appearance of conflict of interest, I would like to recuse myself from the discussion and vote on item E and L on the Business and Finance.
Thank you, Regents. Anyone else?
I'd like to recuse myself from item F of the Capital Planning and Budget Committee.
Back and we were trying a case and we had a verdict and all these jurors dissented. We'd have inconsistent verdicts and we have to do it over again. But I don't think that's the case here. Sorry about that. I'm thinking about my trial coming up on Monday. Please recuse yourself when we vote on that item. Jess, please make a record of the refusals and we will handle it.
We have one more.
One more.
I'm going to recuse myself from the same matter that Regent Rye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we done with the recusals? Okay, thank you. Well, now we're going to start with the committee reports. Scott, Regent Beckler, would you present the Business and Finance Committee?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Regent President Menedez, and good morning, colleagues. Business and Finance Committee convened yesterday. We approved our minutes and then we moved through our agenda items. First, the committee heard a presentation from our host campus, Vice Chancellor for Business Affairs, Pratami Gandhi, detailed how UW-Stevens Point has navigated the financial challenges associated with enrollment, COVID, and other issues. The university has addressed its structural deficit, as we all know and appreciate. They've also invested in strategic priorities and expects to improve further its financial position through increased freshman enrollment and the development of new programs. That was just a report. Next, we approved a U.S. system contract with Oracle for budgeting and planning software, which is currently being used at the system. The original contract expired. This is a new 5-year agreement, which will allow for its continued use until the budgeting and planning function fully transitions to the new enterprise resource planning system that we've been working on, Workday. The total cost of the $1.3 million mirrors the price of the original contract, so we're within budget. Next, UW-Milwaukee proposed a newly negotiated agreement with Verizon Wireless, allowing the cellular service provider to continue with rooftop placement of its equipment at Bolton Hall with an increase in the license fee paid to UWM. This is a 5-year agreement. It has additional renewable terms and a total value that may exceed $1 million. The committee voted in favor of that. Then we moved into a series of contracts presented by the University of Wisconsin-Madison, important research projects. First is an educational services agreement with edX, an online program management company. Under a prior agreement, UW-Madison will make certain non-credit offerings available by July of this year. In this proposal, UW-Madison will offer fully online 4-credit master's degree programs by 2024 which edX will market to its global portfolio of over 42 million learners. Under this initial 10-year revenue sharing agreement, UW-Madison expects that the steady state enrollment of more than 300 students will generate over $2 million annually for the UW-Madison School of Business. Another agreement with UW-Madison, Avante Bio, in which the School of Medicine and Public Health will explore the feasibility of using gene therapy approaches to correct a range of genetic mutations found in the heart, which causes HCM, a disease that impacts up to 1 every 500 persons. This is UW-Madison's first agreement with the company, total funding approaching $1.1 million. Next, we approved a master research agreement with Takeda Development, a global pharmaceuticals firm that many of us are familiar with. This will deal with future research and clinical trials to be determined. UW-Madison has executed 7 prior research and clinical trials with this partner, Takeda, over the years, totaling over $2.1 million. Next, an agreement with Barron Therapeutics, expanding an existing research program looking at a range of cardiovascular conditions. This research is being done by the Department of Animal and Dairy Sciences and will involve the continued development of swine models to study imaging and treatment modalities for arterial sclerosis. The development of this imaging modality is expected to attract additional research opportunities. So that's going to help our friends in the swine community. The committee then approved a master research agreement with Flywheel Exchange. The company provides a research informatics platform targeting a facilitating medical imaging related research and cross-site collaboration. Under this research program, Flywheel Exchange licenses software to UW-Madison. It's procured with a discount as the university provides feedback and evaluation on this software as it's created. Next, and the final UW-Madison contract approved by the committee is with Raytheon Technologies. This is a sub-awardee to a $3 million Department of Energy award to the university in 2020 to prototype a first-of-kind, ultra-high efficiency thermal to electrical power conversion system. The agreement provides funding to Raytheon for year 2 of the project and enables the company's continued participation. Moving out of UW-Madison, we then approved a UW-La Crosse purchase from Heartland Business Systems for the hardware necessary to replace and upgrade the university's wireless network, which is nearing its end of life. This is a $2.1 million price tag. It's part of a total $2.4 million overall cost for the project, which is an eligible use of federal HERF funds. The project will increase the capacity and improve the reliability of the wireless network at UW-La Crosse, while also introducing new security features, which again is one of the emphases we have here at the UW system. In a separate action under this same agenda item, that's why we have items M1 and M2 under this item, we approved an amendment adding UWL project to that UW system report on strategic plans for major IT projects, so we're adding it to the list. And we had already approved that in February. This is an amendment to add in this important tech project. Lastly, we were joined by representatives from both the State of Wisconsin Investment Board and the UW System Office of Trust Funds for an investment report for the period ending December 31, so basically 2021. As of that date, trust funds assets totaled $759 million. The fund's public equity investments increased 5.6%, while the bond investments saw a marginal return and the inflation-sensitive investments returned a 3.5%. For the quarter, both long-term fund and the UW Fund custom benchmark increased in value about 4.5%. So mindful of some of the recusals that have already been placed on the record, in conclusion, on behalf of the Business and Finance Committee, I now move for approval of agenda items E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and then that M1 and M2.
Thank you, Regent Bechtel. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? Seeing none. People that recuse themselves, please don't vote, obviously. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the Education Committee. Regent Bogos, would you present the report of the Education Committee, please?
Yes, thank you, Regent President Many Deeds.
At our meeting yesterday, the Education Committee approved resolutions, one, creating 5-degree programs at UW institutions, and a collaborative Wisconsin Technical College system request for Associate of Arts and Science transfer programs at 8 WTCS institutions. Specifically, action items approved the February 2022 meeting minutes and degree programs for a UW-Madison Doctor of Philosophy in Gender and Women's Studies, which builds on the interest in its master's program and will extend research into complex cultural issues that inform actions to address long-range needs in society. The Master of Science in Data Engineering, which will prepare students for careers in a variety of data-intensive fields or pursue further education in computer science or related quantitative and computational fields, and collaborate with the U.S. Army to support the development, deployment, and management of defense and intelligence data systems. A Master of Science in Data Science, which provides graduates competencies to think critically about data, to manage, process, model, and analyze data, and to obtain meaning and knowledge from data. And a UW-Stout Bachelor of Science in Cybersecurity, which will advance UW-Stout's reputation as a polytechnic university by providing students access to cutting-edge technology and include a co-op experience. We approved a UW Superior Bachelor of Science in Business Analytics will fill student demand for a multidisciplinary major that prepares graduates to make data-driven decisions and to engage in and address complex issues in the business world and many other industries. The committee also approved a WTCS collaborative request for new liberal arts transfer programs for the Associate of Arts at Black Hawk Technical College, Fox Valley Technical College, Lakeshore Technical College, Mid-State Technical College, Moraine Park Technical College, Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, Waukesha County Technical College, and Western Technical College. The committee approved a similar WTCS request for Associate of Science transfer programs at all the same institutions except for Western Technical College, which was already approved. These programs will increase transfer opportunities for coursework, providing flexible multi-path options for students seeking to transfer to the UW system, especially underrepresented, non-traditional, and under-resourced students. These programs will reduce and allow students to remain living and working in their local communities while taking classes. They will benefit from high-impact practices of research, writing, intensive courses, service learning, and collaborative projects, among others. I also want to mention that there were 20 leaders at the Education Committee from the technical colleges there yesterday, which was wonderful. The committee then heard a host presentation from UW Stevens Point students titled "One Point, Many Futures," which emphasized the local, regional, and international impact of the university. Professor Catherine Zalewski introduced 3 students who shared their experiences that exemplify the innovative work done on campus, such as workforce partnerships, global outreach through music, and international learning experiences. We then held an extended panel discussion with senior student affairs officers and student focused on student needs and the impact of COVID-19. The discussion offered context and insight into how staff and students navigated some of the challenges presented by the pandemic. We heard specifically about the experiences of student leaders, athletes, and the behavioral and mental health of staff and students. It was a really wonderful, very robust, and very in-depth discussion, and I think we all really benefited from hearing from those students and from the senior officers. Yesterday's discussion also set the stage for future conversations at the Education Committee meetings that will dive deeper into the needs and concerns of today's students. We look forward to discussions of the strategies campuses use and are developing to address these issues and the gaps and challenges that they still face. We concluded by hearing updates from Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs about new support for student telehealth services, and we had a robust discussion on the preliminary data on the impact of SAT-ACT waiver and upcoming events from the UW System Office of Professional Instructional Development. Regent President Many Deeds, this concludes my report, and therefore I move for adoption by the board resolutions C1 through C8.
Thank you, Regent Bogus. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Thank you, Regent Bogus. Now I'll call upon I to present the capital planning and budget report.
Thank you, Regent President. Mike, close to me here. The Capital Planning and Budget Committee met yesterday to discuss and consider the sale of one parcel, acquisition of two parcels, 3 leases, creation of a condominium, 4 capital projects or programs, and 1 municipal assessment request. The committee had the pleasure of hearing a presentation by Vice Chancellor for Business Affairs, Pratima Gandhi, on purpose-driven capital investments, reimagining the student experience. Her presentation outlined Chancellor Gibson's key goals for student success and how those goals impact their capital program. Ms. Gandhi also walked the committee through the top 4 priority projects for the campus. Will Shader, Student Government Association President, provided a brief overview of the Student Health and Wellness Project, reinforcing its importance to the student body. The presentation ended with a video of the proposed capital program improvements for the 4th Avenue corridor. Senior Associate Vice President Alex Rowe reported that Capital Planning and Budget Committee's focus would now broaden to include a more strategic perspective of campus development, which will include better context for capital project requests in the future. Master plan presentations by each of our institutions will start over the next year at our committee meetings. She also reported that construction inflation has far outpaced the calculations in the last capital budget, causing institutional leadership to make hard decisions on many capital projects in order to stay within their enumerated budgets. The committee considered 12 resolutions. I'd like to note that item K was withdrawn in your packet. The first 2 items, D and E, on behalf of UW-Madison, request authority to sell 123.771 acres of agricultural land in the city of Marshfield in accordance with the option to purchase executed between the Board of Regents and the city of Marshfield for $687,920, and to purchase approximately 70 acres of agricultural land proximate to the Arlington Research Station, known as ARS, to be used for research by the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences for $1,050,000. After the agreement was enacted in 2002 to sell the Marshfield property, the university did not actively develop agricultural activities at the research station. The purchase of additional land will almost double the number of organic acreages and will allow UW-Madison faculty to be more competitive for grant funding and produce more robust research outcomes. The committee approved both of those items. Next, the committee considered and approved item F on behalf of UW-Madison, enter into a lease of 23,000 square feet for clinical activities at the Department of Family Medicine and Community Health within the School of Medicine and Public Health. The new lease replaces an existing lease of space across the street from St. Mary's Hospital in Madison. The committee also approved item G for UW-Madison to execute a 25-year ground lease for approximately 15 acres of land with the Wisconsin Power and Light Company to host a solar photovoltaic array. This lease will provide for agricultural research and education on and around a solar array installation. Next, item H on behalf of UW-Madison seeks, as part of the development of the new Computer Data Information Sciences building, the conversion of a fee simple ownership of property to a condominium containing 2 units. The first is owned by the Board of Regents, and the second by the Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation, known as WARF. The City of Madison Fire Code prohibits the construction of buildings on parcels owned by different parties, so the 2 parcels must be combined into one through a new certified survey map. WARF owns land that is encumbered by a subterranean vivarium and underground loading dock used by researchers at the Wisconsin Institute for Discovery. Secondly, WARF is gifting to the board the above surface level ownership, aka air rights, which will permit the construction of the proposed CDIS building. The committee approved the item. The committee also approved item I on behalf of UW-Oshkosh to enter into a lease of approximately 12,405 square feet to be occupied by Head Start. UW-Oshkosh is the federal grantee for the UW-Oshkosh Head Start program, serving 488 children. The Wilcox Head Start Center will increase its square footage by about 4,905 square feet to accommodate more classrooms and children, creating sufficient office space and expand the outdoor play space. Again, on the behalf of UW-Oshkosh, the committee reviewed and after some discussion with Chancellor Levitt, approved item J, authority to purchase 2.65 acre parcel of land improved by a former Associated Bank building for $675,000. The 22,237 square foot building will be used as storage and indoor practice space for the newly formed UW-Oshkosh Titan Thunder Marching Band and for athletics coaching staff. Next, the committee approved item L for UW-Platteville to release payment of $185,000 program revenue cash to the city of Platteville for a special assessment for the replacement of the failing main sanitary sewer line, which serves a large portion of campus buildings. Item M, on behalf of UW Eau Claire, permits the demolition of Thomas and Putnam residence halls to prepare the site for the new Science and Health Sciences building for an estimated demolition cost of $1,684,800 in program revenue cash. The committee also approved that project. The committee approved item N for UW-Milwaukee to consider the Seaberg Hall West Tower renovation project. The renovation of the West Tower addresses maintenance of bathrooms, bedrooms, support service space, and elevators, and will focus on modernizing plumbing, mechanical, and other life safety systems. Next, the committee considered and approved item O, a classroom renovation instructional technology improvement program project to renovate space in one of the largest lecture halls on the UW-Madison campus, Agricultural Hall, Room 125. And lastly, item P, on behalf of various institutions, the committee granted approval to construct 9 all-agency maintenance and repair projects. At UW-Madison, Helen C. White Hall's parking garage will receive structural repairs by installing a supplemental bearing device for the roof of the garage. At UW-Whitewater, 2 projects will replace roofs at Conner University Center, Maureen Bookstore, Fisher Hall, and Goodhue Hall. A 3rd project will upgrade Schwager Drive with new pavement, curb, and gutters, creating a new drive surface. And the last project will renovate Goodhue Hall's 3rd floor to accommodate student housing needs. At UW Green Bay, the North Campus's primary and secondary electrical service will be upgraded. At UW La Crosse, Sanford Residence Hall will be renovated by installing a full fire suppression system and a new fire alarm and smoke detection system. It also renovates showers and bathrooms to be fully accessible and inclusive. At UW-Milwaukee, Norris Hall will be renovated to accommodate the police department's relocation from Sandburg's West Tower. Lastly, at UW-Parkside, a new 2.08 megawatt solar photovoltaic array, you all think healthcare words are tough, on 9 acres of undeveloped land on the east end of campus will be installed. UW-Parkside will benefit from the majority of electricity produced and will own, operate, maintain, and repair the entire solar system. Regent President, I will move items D, E, F, G, H, I, J, L, M, N, O, P for further discussion and eventual approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Regent President, I'd like to offer some discussion on one of the items that I did record a no vote on in the committee. My comments have nothing to do or against UW-Oshkosh in any way. I think Chancellor Levitt has done an amazing job, or against a marching band, which I think would be great for the campus. It has more to do with at capital planning and eventually coming to this board when we add square footage to our system. Currently, per Alex Rowe, we have probably a little over 65 million square feet in the system. The majority older than I am, built in the 50s and 70s. Every time that we add square footage to the system, a system that we discussed since I've come onto this board 10.5 months ago, that is always facing financial pressures in the future. Every bit of square foot we add, we now add to that financial pressure in the future. So I do believe that when we do projects like this, we need to understand the full cost. That's part one, which wasn't presented as far as its eventual construction cost, and more importantly, the ongoing operating cost of the project. I know that there are multiple buckets of money that we draw from, but all of those buckets seem to be shrinking. And I think from a discipline standpoint, I couldn't vote yes on that. Secondly, the rationale behind the project, which I think goes larger than just capital, was around enrollment and increasing enrollment and creating a program that would draw more enrollment, the marching band, which is a great idea. And bringing more students into the UW system is something we should always focus on. But the cost of attainment of that enrollment in any project I think we need to understand better. When we make an investment in enrollment, how much of that tuition is spent on educating that student? How much of that tuition is left over to actually pay for that investment we made in acquiring those enrollees? So we are about to approve a little over 600,000 that we know of. We don't know the ongoing cost of that, to hopefully add 100 to 150 enrollees at UW-Oshkosh. We don't know if that's a 5-year payoff, a 10-year payoff, or a 2-year payoff on that level of investments. And I do feel that going forward, we need to hear that as a board prior to these decisions. So with your permission, and since I voted no yesterday, I would still like to vote no today on that same item to remain consistent. But once again, record that I really do believe UW-Oshkosh could do a lot with the marching band and we should pursue it. But going forward, as we present capital projects, we should take those two aspects into account.
Going forward, yes, very good idea and an example of how regents on these committees are thinking in terms of what's in the best interest of the system and what's in our best interest. Thank you for that. Any other discussions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Just the one opposition to that item. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Well, now we're going to receive the Research, Economic Development and Innovation Committee report. And thanks to Regent Chris Peterson, Regent Atwell, it is now the most exciting. So now, with that in mind, please tell us what you did.
Thank you, Regent President Manydeeds. The Ready Committee reviewed and approved the minutes of the February 10th meeting. We began our program honoring the 2022 UW System Regent Scholars. This event is a highlight of our programming each year, and it's one of the most important recognitions available within the UW system as we recognize our leading faculty innovators. These individuals represent the best and brightest among the extensive and broad range of talented faculty across the UW system. The Regent Scholar Program provides prestigious one-time grants to individual faculty and campus programs that undertake undergraduate research projects having the potential to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, and talent development. Formally introduced in 2014 through discussions and analysis held within the Ready Committee, the Regent Scholar Program is designed to stimulate faculty and student collaborative research. And eligibility is open to all UW system faculty with a focus on recognizing leading-edge entrepreneurial ideas and innovative projects. Past grant recipients have helped advance knowledge and build businesses in a variety of fields. Among these focus areas, to name a few, are the study of nanoparticles, research in various aspects of cancer detection and prevention, 21st century industrial materials, aerial drone technology, IT code sourcing, and aquaponics, among others. On this topic of aquaponics, we want to mention that one of our very first Regent scholars several years ago, biology professor Dr. Chris Hartlip of UW-Stevens Point, has been widely featured as a prime mover in propelling the growth of the aquaponics industry in Wisconsin. Thanks to Chris and numerous students he's mentored and taught through the years, fresh salmon and organic vegetables are now being produced and grown right here in Wisconsin. This year, our 2022 Regent Scholars include Dr. Todd Hillhouse of UW Green Bay, Dr. John Chan of UW-Oshkosh, and Dr. Mark Levenstein of UW-Platteville. And we were pleased to honor them at Ready for their exemplary research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Their innovative projects and research collaborations hold tremendous potential for researching new approaches to disease treatments, improving health, and pioneering crop and farm productivity, and for helping the UW system to develop the entrepreneurs, scientists, and scholars of tomorrow who are poised to energetically support our economy and improve the quality of life for all Wisconsinites. We had a kind of a brief question and answer session with the recipients of the awards, and I think what stood out to everybody, certainly to me, was the intensity with which the recipients focused on student engagement. in a just a very highly personal way. They each spoke of particular students that they had engaged in the laboratory or in the research, and just their heart for their work and the heart for the people that are impacted by it was moving, at least to me. No, I think to everybody. Next, we heard from our host campus, UW-Stevens Point, and a team of student presenters who provided us with an update on how their university applies 21st century education practices to build collaboration and to develop innovative solutions to support workforce development and economic growth. Leading the program was College of Natural Resources Dean Brian Sloss. And of course, we had our own Ready Committee and student regent Brianna Tucker was in the room and chose not to take the spotlight off any of the other students. So Dean Sloss set the stage for discussions with these additional impressive presenters from across the campus. From their comments, it's clear that sustainability, we certainly saw this yesterday, is a core tenet at this university. This sensitivity is deeply embedded both within the curriculum and in the work of the faculty, staff, and students on campus, and notably within the community and well beyond. As Dean Sloss pointed out, everyone at UW-Stevens Point considers it a deep measure of pride for how well this university and its campuses at Marshfield and Wausau have embedded themselves as valued partners and collaborators across central Wisconsin. Regent President Many-Deeds, this concludes my report.
Thank you very much. So we don't have any resolutions, but the information was great.
Just because we don't have resolutions doesn't mean we didn't do anything.
A little defensive. All right, so now I'll call upon Regent Miller to present the report from the audit committee.
Thank you, Regent President Many-Deeds. The audit committee met yesterday morning. Chief Audit Executive Laura Stork reviewed the progress to date on the fiscal year 2022 audit plan. She confirmed that her office is making solid progress on the plan and expects to bring more reports to the committee in June. Ms. Stork then provided a high-level summary of the results of audits recently issued by the Office of Internal Audit since we met in February. This includes executive summaries for the conflicts of interest and outside activity reporting, Shop UW Plus separation of duties, UW Information Security Awareness Training, and the Payroll Continuous Auditing Report. Overall, she stated the results were excellent and she was pleased with the responses from management. Ms. Stortz concluded by presenting a report of the Chief Audit Executive indicating that work is ongoing preparing the fiscal year 2023 audit plan, which she will bring to the committee in June. In addition, Ms. Stortz discussed the revitalization the UW hotline system has undergone recently and plans to bring more details to the committee in June. This concludes my report. I'm excited with Regent Atwell. We do great work just because we don't have items to bring to the full committee. Doesn't mean that Ms. Stortz and her team are working hard on our behalf.
Thank you very much. All right, next is one of our really exciting and good parts of our meetings every year. It's the Teaching Excellence Awards. It's really enjoyable for us as a board to present these awards, and today we're presenting the 30th Annual Regent Teaching Excellence Awards, which recognize many outstanding faculty and staff members in the UW system. I would call upon Regent Chris Peterson to take over.
Thank you, Regent President Many-Deeds, and good morning, everybody. On behalf of the Board of Regents, it's my pleasure to welcome our distinguished guests this morning, the recipients of the 2022 Regents Teaching Excellence Awards. We also welcome their families, friends, and colleagues. The Regents Teaching Excellence Awards, which marks its 30th anniversary this year, recognizes and honors some of the UW system's most outstanding teachers, departments, and programs. This is the highest recognition bestowed by the UW system on members of its faculty and instructional academic staff for outstanding career achievements in teaching. It's a welcome reminder of what a treasure we have in our faculty and academic staff, those who bring that special dedication, creativity, and passion to their craft. and to whom we entrust the education and enlightenment of our citizens, helping students to achieve their fullest potential. Exceptional teachers can have a transformational effect on their students, helping students imagine and create futures for themselves they previously may not have thought possible. I think we all have a teacher that comes to mind like that. We all recall that, and some have set you on a path to a fulfilling career or life calling. As you are about to hear, we will get a glimpse of how our honorees have motivated their students and colleagues, and even themselves, to venture further than they thought possible in their higher education journey. If anyone wants to learn a little more about our award winners, I invite you to check out their profiles on the Board of Regents website. I'd like to thank my fellow regents on the selection committee who will help present the awards this morning. Regent Mike Jones, Regent Corey Sappel, and Regent Jill Underley. All of today's award recipients are impressive examples of the wonderful impact that such excellent teachers can have on students' lives. We look forward to hearing from each of them in a few moments. Before we present this year's award winners, however, I'd like to acknowledge the other nominees by reading their names and institutions. Individual nominees included Dr. Chris Arndt, UW-Eau Claire, Dr. Brian Merkel, UW Green Bay, Dr. Daniel Ehrman, UW-Madison, Dr. M. Elspeth Misty McPhee, UW-Oshkosh, Dr. Penny Leiter, UW-Parkside, Dr. Patty Cudd, UW-River Falls, and Dr. Nonsa Gwala Ogisi, UW-Whitewater. Program nominees included UW Green Bay's First Nations Education Doctorate, UW-La Crosse's Exercise and Sports Science Department, UW-Oshkosh's Reading and Study Skills Department Center, UW-River Falls Psychological Sciences Department, UW-Stevens Point Department of Theater and Dance, which we greatly enjoyed last night, UW-Stout's Teaching and Learning Hub, and UW-Whitewater's Department of Geography, Geology, and Environmental Science. On behalf of our committee, I want to thank all of the nominees for taking the time to submit their materials and for their significant contributions. My colleagues on the Regent Selection Committee will now each introduce one of this year's 3 award recipients. Each recipient will then have an opportunity to make brief remarks. Presenting our first award is Jill Underley.
Thank you, Regent Peterson. It is my privilege to present the first Regent Teaching Excellence Award to Dr. Laura McCullough, Professor of Physics in the Department of Chemistry and Physics at UW-Stout. For more than 20 years, Dr. McCullough has focused on student academic and career success. A tenured faculty member at the university, she instructs all levels of physics courses. She is especially passionate about teaching entry-level physics. In her nomination statement, she said, quote, "On the first day of class, I tell my students that I'm not here to teach them physics. I'm here to help them learn physics. It's all about them." Unquote. To achieve that goal of student-centered learning, she uses proven classroom strategies, including clicker-typed questions, think, pair, share activities, and student whiteboards. And keeping in mind the real world or life after college, she includes course content and activities that focus on career placement. About 10 years ago, Dr. McCullough successfully implemented standards-based grading. This form of grading uses a series of learning objectives that students must pass to determine their understanding of the material. As an added benefit, it accommodates students with learning disabilities as well. During the pandemic, Dr. McCullough actively engaged with students online, recording lectures using a lightboard, which is technology that allows an instructor to face the camera while drawing on transparent glass. She presents her research about the advancement of women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM fields at regional and national conferences. And last year, she earned UW-Stout's Outstanding Educator Award in the College of Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics, and Management. A colleague says of our honoree, quote, "I have benefited from Laura's wisdom in the classroom, have witnessed her passion towards the growth and development of her students, and have been empowered by her mentorship and leadership," unquote. Please join me in congratulating our first award recipient for this year, Dr. Laura McCullough of UW-Stout.
Thank you so much. This is so exciting. I want to show my appreciation for those who helped me with this nomination. My team strongly encouraged me. And my nomination met together, Rose and Chancellor wrote letters. I asked 2 students to write letters, and my husband, of course, helped with everything. And I also have to thank my family. I feel like I was born to this job. Grandparents, parents, sister, they're all teachers. Among my parents, I have math, physics, and chemistry, so I really do feel like it's in my blood. So here I am, a professor of physics. And when I tell people I'm a physics professor, you can imagine that I often get 2 responses. "Oh, I hated physics," or "Oh, you must be really smart." And, you know, physics has this bad reputation, and I work against that reputation. But that's what I deal with when I walk into class the first day. I walk into a class full of students who think they can't do it, who think it's hard, who think that it isn't relevant or isn't about them. And so one of the things I want to do is make sure that every student leaves my class knowing that physics is fun, it's relevant, it's in their day-to-day life, and also that they can do it. And that affects how I teach. I want them to do physics. You can't learn physics by reading or watching. You have to do it. So I use a lot of just fun tools. I use balloons and toy cars and slinkies and all sorts of things like that to have them doing the physics. And part of doing is also failing. You know, we learn by making mistakes, and I want my classroom to be a place where it's safe to make mistakes. So the standards-based grading that I do, students have a chance to take a quiz. If they don't pass, they get to try again. Instead of walking away from the test saying, "Oh, well, I didn't make it that time, too bad," they say, "Oh, I'm going to study harder, and I'm going to try again." And that's my philosophy. I want everybody to succeed. I would love it if every student in my class got out with an A, because I can prove they passed every single objective I have for them. And so being a physics professor is just, it's amazing to me. And I love what my students do for me. And I guess I want to thank the selection committee, but I also, most of all, I want to thank my students because they allow me to do a job that I love and they make it a joy. Thank you all.
Good morning. It is my particular pleasure to present our second 2022 Regents Teaching Excellence Award, Professor Mimi Rappley Larson, Associate Professor and Program Coordinator for UW Social Work Program, part of the Department of Human Behavior, Justice, and Diversity. Professor Larson is a tenured faculty member in UW Social Work Program. where she has taught since 1997. She began her teaching career with more than 10 years of experience as a social worker, which allows her to share real-world experiences with her students. Professor Larson's educational philosophy emphasizes building relationships, embracing active teaching and learning methods, and creating an interactive learning environment that promotes critical thinking and student ownership of learning. These practices have led to her teaching approach grounded in empathy, the ability to be present with what a person is experiencing in the moment. The skill of empathy is particularly important for social workers to establish trust and rapport with clients. Professor Larson developed a three-step process to teach empathy. This has resulted in statistically significant improvement in students' understanding and practice of this critical skill. To share her findings more broadly, she co-authored a chapter about teaching empathy in an interdisciplinary book, New Directions for Teaching and Learning, Big Picture Pedagogy. A colleague made this reflection about her honoree. Quote, she helps students see that they can navigate something that feels impossible in the moment. The children, families, groups, and neighborhoods that our social work students serve all benefit from Mimi's teaching brilliance. And that bears repeating, teaching brilliance. On that note, it is my privilege to introduce our second 2022 Regents Teaching Award Excellence recipient, Professor Mimi Rappley Larson.
Thanks, guys. Where do I go?
Thank you, your pandemic consultant.
Thank you. I am honored and very grateful for this award. I want to thank the Board of Regents for your consideration of my nomination and my work with empathy. I'd like to thank Dr. Renee Walkner and Dr. Maria Kuzo for their leadership at UWS, which has provided me with role models of very strong, competent women who lead with compassion. I'd like to thank my nominator, Dr. Jamie White Farnham, for all of her help and support in putting together my application materials. And I'd like to give a sincere thanks to my wonderful program colleagues and campus colleagues who make the challenging work that we do fun, exciting, and meaningful. So I've had two amazing career tracks. The first one was as a social worker, and the second is as a teacher at UWS. As a social worker, I specialized working with people who were abused and traumatized, who coped with life by developing addictions, who were frequently in crisis due to devastating events in their lives, who oftentimes made poor decisions based out of desperation and being in pain, and all who struggled with some kind of mental health issues. And these were people who were also recipients of inequity and social injustice, who lived in poverty, who were experienced in receiving discrimination and racism on a daily basis. These are people who are always been considered problems in our society and our communities, people who were frequently dismissed as not having much to offer, who were not successful by societal standards. And as one Jesuit priest said, who works with gang members in LA, throwaway populations. And I was tasked to help them. I was tasked to promote change in their lives, to teach them new, more productive ways in which to go forward. But here's the big surprise. I was the one who was most blessed with working with these folks. I learned about humanity. I learned about strength. I learned about resiliency. I learned about finding a will to survive in the harshest of times. I had to relearn many of the messages of what I had been taught about social work clients. And the most important lesson of all, which has carried with me into my teaching, has been that the true change and well-being comes from having a relationship with and being connected to one another. So as I entered the teaching field many years ago, this was a lesson I carried with me and I wanted to bring to the classroom and to the students who I was now tasked to help create future social workers and be a part of influencing them. As I reflect on my years of teaching, I can say with utmost certainty that I believe that learning occurs within the context of a relationship. That not just in the material I present or the assignments I give. It has to come when the students feel seen and heard, when there is engagement with them, both in the classroom as well as outside the classroom, when I can take short minutes of time in a hectic, crazy schedule to ask them how they are and to ask them who they are. And when I practice this, when I practice empathy, I began to see that students showed up differently in the classroom. So in 2015, I became very hungry to learn everything I could about this concept of empathy and the important role I think it played with students and also in future social work. So I applied for a SOTL project to conduct in one of my interviewing classes, a class where students are learn to build a relationship. And that SOTL project was to develop a 3-step teaching process on empathy that involved including a cognitive understanding of what empathy is, an affective ability to manage emotions that oftentimes get triggered when we're listening to people, and also to how to behaviorally demonstrate. I was pleased with the statistical analysis that showed that there was change, and I believe that it showed that empathy works. So as I go forward and in my conclusion, it's always my hope that students will have a transformative experience based on their own receiving of empathy in our classrooms and on our campuses, and that they also can then go forth into the world to build connections with other people. If I were to broaden from the students, I would say that on a larger scale, one of the greatest challenges we have is we have a lot of people walking around in our world and on our campuses who need to have connections, who need to feel connected. And I believe that empathy is a place to start. And I thank you for the recognition of this. Thank you.
Morning. I'm honored to present our third award this year, which recognizes the outstanding teaching and department program. That honor goes to the communication department at UW-Parkside. The goal of the small but mighty department is to teach students to be effective communicators in varied contexts. The department prepares them to be flexible, resourceful, and capable of performing at high levels for any kind of position, even positions that do not yet exist. Faculty and staff redesigned learning goals and instituted high-impact practices, such as community-based learning and undergraduate research. This approach has transformed student learning and benefited historically marginalized student populations. Students majoring in communication reflect UW-Parkside's overall student demographics, including a high percentage of students of color, Pell recipients, and first-generation students. Career exploration courses help these students integrate career planning with their studies, and the results speak for themselves. The department's retention and graduation rates outperform other majors at UW-Parkside. Department graduates are hired by well-known organizations around the country and internationally. The communication department has been recognized as a model of equity-minded, high-impact practices by the National Association of System Heads, by UW System Office of Academic Programs and Faculty Development, and the National Hips in the States Conference. Department faculty submitted a chapter for the new book, Delivering on the Promise of High Impact Practices, Research and Models for Achieving Equity, Fidelity, Impact, and Scale. A student evaluating one of the department's courses wrote this quote, "The class has been a total game changer for me. I appreciate being able to take this class because it helped me learn how effective communication is imperative in everyday life." End quote. It is my honor to present our Regents Teaching Excellence Program Award to the Communication Department at UW-Parkside, being accepted on today by the department's behalf by Dr. Adrian Viramontes, Associate Professor of the Department Chair.
As I'm old, I prefer glasses. Thank you. What? I'm short too. Thank you to the Board of Regents. My colleagues and I in the Communication Department at the University of Wisconsin-Parkside proudly accept this award, which honors our hard work and dedication to the student body of southeastern Wisconsin. Each of my colleagues specializes in a different area of communication. And you'd think that that might bring about 6 different interpretations of how our department and program should be run or should run best. But what all of us share in common is our firm belief in experiential and community-based learning as a fruitful site of transformative education. My department is diverse, predominantly first-generation faculty, and student-centered. We believe that when we take the self out of the classroom, everyone can learn. Thank you.
Well, finally, I'd like to ask Regent Atwell to present the board's resolution of appreciation to UW-Platteville Chancellor Shields.
Thank you, Regent President. It is a genuine honor to enter into the record this resolution of appreciation for Chancellor Dennis Shields. And I get to make a few personal remarks beforehand. The first couple of years, I think when I was on the Regents, I think Regents have this experience in common. There's just a tremendous amount of information, data, the scope of the system, the size, the complexity, the diversity. There's just a lot to learn and a lot of stuff gets thrown at you. And so the first couple of years for me were kind of a whirlwind. And then I took a trip down to Platteville. And it was such a welcome break from this sort of immersion in data. Because I got to spend a day and a half or so with Chancellor Shields. And we have connected frequently since then. Of course, we did the usual campus visits and we met with staff and so forth and students. But what really stood out to me is this is a person of tremendous courage, candor, drive, determination, all those things that are very obvious in Dennis. What stood out to me, though, as I reflected on the experience and my many experiences since then, is the heart that he has for the students, faculty, and the staff. And it was a reminder for me, and remains an example to me, that while the campus systems are large, diverse, and complex, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, systems, data, money, processes, this work is intensely personal. It has to do with people. And at the end of the day, we need to reach people at a very personal and direct level. Dennis has done that for me. He's done it for his faculty. He's done it for his staff. And I know that I speak for all of my fellow regents that we're very grateful and we will miss you. And we wish you all the best. But you gotta stay right there while I read it, okay?
That's
This doesn't take direction, you know. It's uncoachable. Resolution of appreciation for Chancellor Dennis J. Shields. Whereas Dennis J. Shields has been one of the longest serving chancellors in the University of Wisconsin system, having dedicated 12 years in service as the 14th Chancellor of the University of Wisconsin-Platteville from 2010 to 2022. And whereas under Chancellor Shields' tenure, UW-Platteville registered its highest enrollment totals in the university's 156-year history, reaching a pinnacle of 8,950 students, reflecting his commitment to making the university affordable and accessible. And whereas Chancellor Shields' focus on serving diverse communities resulted in doubling the population of students of color during his tenure, and he substantially enhanced infrastructure to support equity and justice by creating the campus's first full division focused on supporting a myriad of historically marginalized populations, the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, led by an executive-level chief diversity officer, as well as founding a Veterans and Non-Traditional Student Center, University Bias Incident Team, Hispanic Outreach Program, Campus Climate Department, and Pioneers Helping Pioneers Emergency Grant Program. And whereas Chancellor Shields' legacy includes an improved campus infrastructure, including the new facilities of the Centennial Hall, Ridgeway Commons, Roundtree Commons, and the solar array panel, as well as major renovations to Babel Hall and Williams Fieldhouse, demonstrating his desire for high caliber learning experiences for all students. And whereas Chancellor Shields' steadfast belief in being a steward of place has had a powerful, far-reaching impact on Southwest Wisconsin and the tri-state region, making UW-Platteville a hub of learning, research, and economic development. And whereas Chancellor Shields' belief in the university controlling its own destiny has led to record amounts of gifts, as well as the creation of a corporate relations department, a real estate foundation, and 538% growth of the foundation from 14 million in total net assets to over 90 million in 2022. And whereas Chancellor Shields' consistent demonstration of being a values-driven leader whose main educational focus is championing access, equity, and speaking his truth to support student success has been obstinately evident in his advocacy efforts. And resisting the temptation to further founding of an academic support program, student success center, engagement in athletics, and championing of faculty who deliver high impact practices to transform student experiences. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin system hereby commends Dennis J. Shields for his many achievements, offers thanks for his longtime service as Chancellor of UW-Platteville, and wishes him well in his next endeavor as president of the Southern University System and Chancellor of Southern University and A&M College.
Before we get started, I was hoping I wouldn't have to do this right away, but I have to give the Chancellor a citation on WTO citation. Gave me one long ago, and you're smart enough, right before you came up, you get that. My turn. As I've taken the saying lately, seldom right, but never in doubt. I read recently a quote written shortly before his death by Madeline Albright, and paraphrasing it, something that I believe that the best teachers tell us that it is no sin to make a mistake, but unpardonable not to try to make the most out of their talents. And what I brought with me in the University of Wisconsin-Platteville was a belief that leaders, particularly in higher education, must be values-driven. And for me, as I think you've heard, the guiding value was, is, and will be that leaders in higher education must be driven by a commitment to great student outcomes. And in large part, when I accepted the position as the Chancellor of the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, it was because I sensed in the faculty and the staff and the students a culture that was committed to great teaching that would lead to great student outcomes. Happy to say that commitment has been confirmed over my time at Platteville, and I'm grateful for having been a part of that culture. And I am humble enough to believe that I hope that there is significant evidence that I have contributed in a positive way to the manifestation of this values-driven mission of the Platteville students, faculty, and staff. I'm grateful to them for all that we've shared and accomplished together. So I will thank, I've been here 12 years. There have been dozens and dozens and dozens of regents. And the reality of it is, however they start out, very shortly after they become engaged as regents, becomes clear they're driven by their concerns for students and this state and this great university. I'm grateful for the interactions I've had with all of you and have learned a great deal from each and every one of you. I couldn't be up here today without making some commentary about my colleagues, the chancellors of this great system. We have special affinity because no one else in the room has sat in the seat that we sit in. And I have great appreciation for the slings and arrows and challenges that are associated with serving in these positions. Now, none of us ever complain about it. I mean, that really, you can't do these jobs and not understand that this is what it is. And at any moment that you feel like it's not worth it, you really should step away from it. And so I have huge respect and honor each and every one of you for stepping up every day. All of us probably know if you get a call at 2 or 3 in the morning, it's never a good thing, but we are susceptible to those kinds of things on a basis. And I will tell you, my observation about my colleagues is they care deeply about their institutions, the faculty, their staff, and especially their students. And so I'm honored to have been associated with each and every one of you. And thank you for your patience and forbearance of my behavior from time to time. To the folks who work at system, you do so many things that are behind the scenes that are unappreciated, some that are, some that annoy us. But at the end of the day, this system could not operate without your service and your support of what we do. And I'm grateful to you for putting up with me looking up all the time. And thank you for all the hard work that you do. I have a special thank you for the folks at Platteville, but I'll put those at the end. So you couldn't expect me to stand up here without making some observations. Some may have been surprised that when asked that I designated Regent Rappley, introduced the resolution honoring me today. And I'm grateful that he acceded to my request. Notwithstanding what I suspect is a large gap in our own political orientations. Notwithstanding this, there's no question in my mind about his dedication to advocating for the value of higher education and supporting the great work that occurs on the campuses that comprise the University of Wisconsin system. Further, and more important, he has demonstrated to me in his own unassuming way that he's a kind and thoughtful person. His commitment and kindness are representative of the assets each and every one of us can bring to this endeavor expressed by the Wisconsin idea. So I would urge all of us to think kindly of one another, even when we may disagree. A little more hard-nosed observation is that we are driven too often by political calculations. And this has great downsides for this endeavor. I spoke with a colleague of mine, member of the faculty at the University of Iowa Law School, who I knew spent several years working in the president's office at the University of Iowa. And he said he stepped away because it became clear to him that almost every decision that got made was driven by a view. Now, I'm not smart enough to know where to draw the line on those things, but I do know there are real consequences for our campuses and our students. Political outcomes outweigh other significant values and outcomes. So for us at Platteville, the most stark and impactful evidence of this is that for 6 years we have attempted to get in place differential tuition for our engineering programs. I could roll on for quite some time about why it's needed, but I'll not. In every instance today, larger political calculus put a kibosh on moving forward. And I want to be clear, it's not just this year, but that delay amounts to about $3 million a year. So $18 million that could have been used by faculty, by equipment, support students, do all kinds of things. But at every moment when it came time to pull that trigger, got put off in hopes that some other political interest would work out for us. Well, hope is not a strategy. And it's hurting our institutions. And I would urge us to try to find a way to lower that temperature and to move towards outcomes that serve our student, our institutions well. And yes, that may mean we have to argue with some of those who don't see us as the positive influence that we all know this great institution is. But sometimes it's worth having. Last observation is that I first spent a fair amount of time in Wisconsin in the summer of 1981. I was had just completed my second year of law school, and I was working for the Public Defender's Office in Milwaukee as an intern. I will tell you that there's a lot of things that have changed about Milwaukee in that time, but there's some things that haven't. And that challenge has expanded to other areas, the urban areas in Wisconsin, and we have growing populations of people of color in other parts of the state. And we need to have an urgency of addressing those opportunities. Wisconsin will not have the workforce it needs unless we reach down in those populations and offer opportunity and encourage them to move forward. It's just not going to happen. And I would say to you, it's not just people of color, because if you look across rural Wisconsin, you see the same things happening. In many ways, what's happened for decades with students of color in this state serve as a canary in a coal mine. And if we don't make higher education and the aspiration for higher education more inclusive, not just in Wisconsin, but in many places, then we're not going to be the country we'd like to think that. So I would urge you to get some urgency to a strategy that's system-wide. And I would say to you, don't let the magnitude of the task keep you from doing even small things. I've always found that if you wait for something big to happen, then it never happens. But if you start some little step, then it moves forward. And you look back and see, how do we get there? The things that Regent Atwell mentioned about our diversity efforts, that was a journey. It wasn't a step. We built a piece at a time to get to where we need to be. So let me close. I'm an Iowa boy. I grew up in rural Iowa. And so in many ways, I was prepared for the experience of coming to a rural campus like Platteville. The people there have been warm, maybe not as warm as I'd like it sometimes, but on the campus, there is a remarkable faculty. There are remarkable staff, and I'm drawn to the observation I made. Since nobody else could be on campus but me and the janitorial workers during the height of COVID, I had the chance to observe Zach and Brian every day. Nobody there watching what they're doing, but they scrub those floors, they vacuum the carpets. I never once saw them sitting around. And they epitomize the commitment that the people on that campus have to making Platteville a remarkable place for everyone. Our faculty are the leading group of garnering MISIS awards. Now, like all the comprehensives, we're teaching universities, so they're teaching 4 classes a semester. And that, if you don't know, that can be 200 to 300 students they're responsible for. But they're still finding the time to do this research and to do it in a way that encourages undergraduate opportunities for research. They're very remarkable. Now, let me just say, I think it's true at my sister campuses, but it's very stark, the level of energy and effort these wonderful people put into everything that they do. Whatever successes that I've had at Platteville, I recognize I didn't do that. It was a lot of people that stepped up and said, yeah, this is something we can do. The Real Estate Foundation, 2 alumni, that when that was a twinkle in our eye, stepped forward and made that happen. The building, Cecil Centennial Hall, that was an all-out assault by the whole University of Platteville University community, making the case to legislators, business and industry across the state. It was a strategy that was executed that all I had to do was sort of say a couple of things and get out of the way. So you know that if you lead these institutions, you don't have success without a lot of people pulling on the oars with you. I'm grateful to them, and I'm grateful for all the lessons that I've learned in this role. As I go off to Southern University, a friend of mine said to me that this is a leadership opportunity that you've been preparing for all your life. You know my commitment to inclusion, and I can't think of any better place to pursue that passion than at the Southern University system. I would not be prepared to take that on if it weren't for a lot of people in this room giving me the opportunity to learn and grow, participate in this great University of Wisconsin system. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Well, I'd like to thank Chancellor Gibson and his team for their hospitality during our time here. And now I would like to call upon Regent Brianna Tucker, a UW-Stevens Point student, to read the resolution of appreciation to UW-Stevens Point for hosting the April meeting.
I'd just like to say thank you to the students, the faculty, and especially Chancellor Gibson for welcoming everyone onto this beautiful campus that I like to call home. I will now read the resolution of appreciation for UW-Stevens. Whereas the members of the Board of Regents are pleased to recognize the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point as the official host campus for the board's April 2022 meeting, and are grateful for the generous hospitality extended this month by Chancellor Thomas Gibson and the entire Pointer community. And whereas the board appreciated hearing Chancellor Gibson's energetic and thoughtful presentation, purpose-driven education, points of transformation. And whereas the Education Committee thanks the following students for sharing their stories in one point, many futures. Colin Barker, a graduate student in the Master of Science Athletic Training Program, Pavla Vang, a music education major, and Graham Gross, majoring in German and International Studies. And whereas the Capital Planning and Budget Committee was pleased to hear the presentation, Purpose-Driven Capital Investments, Reimagining the Student Experience, including information on the chemistry and biology building that has been constructed and important future capital needs for students' well-being. And whereas the Business and Finance Committee gained a deeper understanding of the university's purpose-driven investments and how the university is aligning its financial model for the future. And whereas the Research, Economic Development, and Innovation Committee heard an in-depth discussion highlighting how the university is building prosperous communities through research, collaboration, and innovation, including examples of students working with Wisconsin businesses and community stakeholders to advance sustainability and conservation. And whereas the board was delighted to hear a performance at the Dreyfus University Center by some of the talented students from the university's School of Performing Arts. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents hereby thanks UW-Stevens Point for this month's informative presentations, its forward-thinking spirit, and its many continued purposeful contributions to the UW system and to the state of Wisconsin.
All right, at this time, I'd like to take a moment to remember former Lieutenant of State Senator Regent Emeritus Margaret Farrell. Last month on March 8th, we lost Regent Farrell. She passed away at age 87. She was a trailblazer as Wisconsin's first female lieutenant governor, and she was really a great person. I am not a good judge of this, but I think if anyone was ready to meet their maker and be well received, it was Margaret Farrell. I think that I met her in my first 7-year term in a meeting much like this, and I was sitting next to her, and she sat down and said, "Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do?" And that was Margaret Farrell. She was direct. She was really smart. She had ideas and thoughts on things, and she always looked out for the students of the state of Wisconsin. I had three daughters, and I have a certain way of looking at things. And there are some issues that came up involving the conduct of women and men on our campuses. And having been a young man a long time ago, I realized that I should watch out for young men with my daughters. Felt I had a good reason for doing it. Margaret, on the other hand, gave me the other side of that equation. And that was what happened to young men, which I totally forgot about. And she reminded me of, and we had a really good discussion about that. And we had discussions about other things just like that. She was opinionated. It made sense, though, when she told you what she thought and why she thought it. And we had those talks. We also had the connection of not being at all good with technology. I had a flip phone when I started doing this, and Margaret had one too. And I remember the day that she came to the meeting, and she was so excited that she had an iPhone, and she was trying to learn how to text to her grandkids. And the next meeting, she had mastered it and told me how she was doing it. She loved those grandkids. She was so proud of her sons. She was so proud of where she came from. She was just a good person, and I miss her, but I know she's in a really good place. So let's take a moment. So on behalf of the board, I extend our deepest condolences to Margaret's family, her husband John, her sons Paul, John, Bill, Peter, and Mark, and their families, as well as her many friends and colleagues. She is deeply missed. Do any other regents have any regional?
I do. Thank you, Regent President Many Deeds. I'd like to acknowledge the passing of John G. Bollinger. He died Wednesday evening and was the second longest serving dean in the history of UW-Madison's College of Engineering. He was the first dean I worked with there, and I can't begin to catalog everything that I learned from him, including the best way to shake hands is to bring that person 5 inches close to you and look directly in their eyes. It reminded me a lot of what they say Lyndon Johnson did. And since they were at completely opposite ends of the political spectrum, I believe the truth is in there somewhere in the middle. But John presided over the college. He was a UW-Madison grad. He left Juilliard. He was going to major in music, but he came to Wisconsin to play the trumpet in the marching band and lead the engineering college through great changes. He presided over bringing far more women faculty into the college than had ever been there, and women students as well. He was a great fan of the Society of Women Engineers and loved to hear them get up and take charge. John gave his entire academic life to UW-Madison. He's emblematic of many of our faculty at all of our institutions who put such great investment into the young people that come to us for their education. I have to say that John also advised many companies in Wisconsin by serving on their boards and having a smart ear for business. And that includes the Kohler Company, and it also includes a certain computer company named Burby Information Networks, with which I have some acquaintance. So in honor of John, the next time you see a beautiful piece of art, take a nod to him. He was a big art man, and he loved champagne.
Anyone else? All right, then I believe we are adjourned. So.